know, poetry does not always get the best rap. Like, it can be kind of intimidating, I think, and poetry can be hard for kids because it's so intimidating, often for teachers. Hello, party people, and welcome to the Caffeinated Classroom. I'm Marie, and if this is your first time here with me, I am a high school English teacher, but I've also taught drama in the past. I've taught AVID, I've taught a slew of other things. It's kind of a long story. Anyways, I just want to give you a little background on who I am. I am so excited to be a part of this secondary English language arts teachers collaboration all about poetry. I think poetry is awesome. So much has to do with observation, so much of it has to do with subjectivity, and so I think poetry is so cool, and it is underrated in a lot of high schools, in a lot of middle schools, and just in a lot of classrooms. The lovely and wonderful EJ Kafooples from Kafoopel Land is the one who put all of this together, so thank you. We've got some pretty awesome teachers in our ranks doing this collaboration, so I'm going to link everybody's video down below in my description. Please make sure to go check those ones out, because I think you guys are going to get some great resources and some great ideas for texts and activities from all of these amazing teachers. So the way that we're doing this is kind of like a top 10 countdown, except it's the top 5 countdown of poems, and poetry includes basically anything that's like in verse that we love to teach in our classrooms. If you have been to the Caffeinated Classroom before, this is not my normal filming spot. It is a summer evening, my kids are asleep, and I'm not about to go make some noise in the office across the hall from where their bedrooms are, so welcome to my living room. This is Wilbur. He's a part of our family. Okay, let's get into it, shall we? So, I have my notebook, I'm ready to rock and roll. My first poem, my number 5 poem that I just love, and those of you who are English dorks like me are gonna like this one too. It is a sonnet by William Shakespeare, but it's not Sonnet 18, it's not any of the really like lovey-dovey ones. It is sonnet number 29. Let me read to you how it starts, because I'm nervous now and I've forgotten, even though I have a master's degree in theater arts. See, people, even someone like me, I don't really have a whole lot of shame, but I still get nervous. Oh, it's sonnet 29 starts, when in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate. It's just so good. Okay, so Sonnet 29 from William Shakespeare is one where the speaker is just like all emo on himself, and he's super depressed, and he is outcast either by society, or he's outcast himself from society on his own. And so most of the sonnet he goes through just like woe is me feelings, and it's like actually really dark and sad. And then at the very end it's like, except for when I think upon my love, and everything is all of a sudden fine again. This one is great because the format of a sonnet is a problem solution format, and the problem is very direct. The speaker, could really be anybody, is just beside him or herself, cannot even think to live another day, except, oh wait, a thought popped into the speaker's head, and it's about the speaker's true love, and now everything's fine. Problem solved. And there's just something about this that, like, it's such a quick, like, turnaround that kids, like, they actually laugh when they, like, put it together. I've had so many instances, even in, like, a 9th grade classroom, where kids are laughing because they're like, oh my gosh, like, that's it? That's all it took, was just, like, not even having contact with the person that the speaker loves, but just, like, thinking about them. That's all it takes. Must be nice. Anyways, so that's my number 5. My number 4 is The Red Wheelbarrow by William Carlos Williams. William Carlos Williams was an American poet. He was born in 1883, and he ran with the likes of like Ezra Pound. He and T.S. Eliot were like rivals. They were kind of frenemies, basically. But he was part of the Imagist movement, and I like The Red Wheelbarrow because, well, here, actually, let me read it to you. I don't even really have to give you a synopsis because it's so stinking short. I can just read it to you. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. I like to teach this poem because A, it's so short. It's so short. It's 4 lines. and they're broken up into like each line is its own stanza, and it is all about imagery. So it's a really great poem to get kids visualizing language and talking about the power of language. I don't really get into a whole lot about William Carlos Williams. I like to do some imagery work with this poem, and it's a lot of times I'll break out the watercolors. I don't know why it feels like a good poem for the fall, but it does. It just feels like a good poem for like around Thanksgiving time for like American schools. So we'll do some like kind of copycat poetry, and we'll do some imagery with like watercolor or sketching or whatever it is, so the kids can also try their hand at different media, and they can just try to express ideas in different ways. And because it's pretty objective images, like it's just the red wheelbarrow, it's just the rainwater. I mean, obviously it's not just, but to kids, we can kind of point it out that way. We can make it very pragmatic. It's like a low threat kind of a way to analyze deep poetry. I don't know if that makes any sense. Let me know in the comments if that makes no sense, or let me know if it does. And then I'll feel like I'm vindicated from all the times that kids have just stared at me like this. I love teenagers, I really do. Okay, my number 3 is by Langston Hughes, I Too Sing America. One of my favorite courses to teach is our 11th grade year, which is American literature. I try to cram as much into American literature as I possibly can without overwhelming kids, because American authors have written these like huge tomes, and like East of Eden is one of my favorites, Gatsby, but I like to do a unit on universal human rights. And so we talk about like the Civil War era. I don't even go back to colonialism too much when I'm talking about universal human rights. I talk about, from the American perspective, the Civil War, because like it's the Civil War. And then I talk about the Harlem Renaissance, and then I kind of just segue that straight into the civil rights movement, and then forward, and we talk about a whole bunch of different movements. I hope I get to teach American Lit again soon. Anyways, I digress. So I Too Sing America was Langston Hughes' poem that basically said, like, listen, just because Black people or people of color, like people who are not white, are not heard doesn't mean that we're not American. And it was a direct response to one of his literary heroes, who was Walt Whitman, to his poem, I Hear America Singing. And I Hear America Singing is all about the working class, like waking up in the morning and singing their song. It was about a lot of blue collar workers, and it's a fantastic poem. So I like to teach the two together, because then Langston Hughes is like, okay, yeah, you're not talking about us, but like we're here too. And so the question that I like to ask kids talking about these two poems, almost in a Venn diagram, is, who is America? Like who makes up America? Who is more American? And it gets touchy, but I think it's something that kids need to hear each other think through, because we talk about the voices that are heard, and then we talk about the voices who are silenced, and the voices who are not heard, and the voices who are not brought to light, because these two poems do that so well. Hopefully some of you who are hearing me say throughout American history are giving me the benefit of the doubt to know that, like, I know there's no physical way to cover all of American history, even in the time of high school. So just like, I know, and I know. My numbers 2 and 1 are together, and I kind of cheated because I threw in Walt Whitman on number 3, but anyways. Numbers 2 and 1 are together, and they are my absolute favorite pair to do together. I like to, once again, back in American literature, I like to do a unit, I like to talk about generations and the differences between kind of the characteristics of our major American generations. Number 2 and number 1 there's no order here, but I like to compare the two songs, We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel with the song Waiting on the World to Change by John Mayer, because they are very telling of the generation that the songwriters come from. We Didn't Start the Fire is a song where Billy Joel, it's very fast-paced, it's intense, the manner of speech is like brrr, like Lin-Manuel Miranda could do this pattern. It is so fast, and it is so information-packed with all of these major American events that happened in the time that Billy Joel was alive and right before he was alive. And it talks about, we didn't start the fire, though we didn't light it, we tried to fight it. And it talks about how that generation inherited all of these problems, these world problems, these American problems, whatever you call them, but they put their nose to the grindstone and decided to deal. Waiting on the World to Change, on the other hand, John Mayer is like a few years older than me. We're in the same generation, and it's much more passive. It is a slow, easy, I mean, this was written during like the post 9/11 era, that war in Iraq and in the Middle East, and the mentality of our generation has been so different. It's been very laissez-faire. It's been very we're just waiting on the world to change. We're just gonna be here. Like, we didn't start this fight, so it's really not ours. And to point that out, and like I have a bunch of like literature that or not literature, but sociological studies and write-ups that I like the kids to look at when we're looking at this. It is cool. Some of the stuff, especially like there's something about 11th grade, 16, 17 years old, they really start to develop more of a sense of the world around them, and their maturity is there to be able to talk about this kind of stuff. So I just like, it's one of my favorite things. Sometimes I try to pull it into 10th grade, and I'm teaching all 10th grade next year, so like I might try to do that. But if this is something that you like, are like, oh yeah, that's super cool, oh my gosh, comment below and I'll tell you what I do. Yeah, we just look at the generations and we kind of talk about then like, what is your, where are you on this? Like, if there's a spectrum of activism, where are you in that spectrum? Where do you lie naturally? What do you think your responsibility is? Because everybody's different. No matter what culture you come from, every single person is going to be a little bit different. That's my top 5. I threw in a couple of bonus in there, a little bit over 5, so I apologize if you're sticklers for numbers. I'm an English teacher. I can't count. I don't know why I'm humming Christmas songs in July. Once again, I want to give a shout out and a big thank you to EJ Kafoopals from Kafoopaland for putting this all together. I cannot wait to see what everybody else has, because some of my poetry is a little bit stale. Some of the poetry that I just like listed off to you is not necessarily right for what I'm teaching next year, so I want to pull some stuff in. Please take a moment, if you've not already done so, to like this video and hit subscribe, because I have a feeling that our little teacher tuber community is going to have a lot more collaborations like this coming out. We're trying to bring as much like good, useful content to the YouTube world. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Check out the other videos in this series down below, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.